All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar today. A few of us here are live at the Canby Innovation Center in West Hazleton. And I know those of you who are joining virtually are on Zoom. And so this is a hybrid format. We're going to do our best to keep things moving smoothly. And I appreciate your patience as we do this on the fly. So thank you again. My name is Krista Schneider, and I'll be your moderator, host for this presentation. Just a few other housekeeping items. We're going to try to keep on schedule to be out of here in and out in an hour. This is why it's called a rapid fire roundtable. I don't want to be rude, but I'm going to give all the speakers a 1 minute warning when it's their time to move on. So please don't feel that I'm being rude when I tell you have 1 minute left. Anybody who wants to add a question or present a question, please do so in the question and answer chat box. And this presentation is being recorded, just so you know. And at any time, if you, or I should say at the end of each speaker's presentation, you'll see their contact information if you want to write that down. If not, my cards are on the table here, and you could just reach me directly, and I will put you in touch with whoever it is that you want to speak to. So I will begin by thanking our partners. Ben Franklin Technology Partners, Ken Okrepke here, my partner in crime. The Chamber, Greater Hazleton Chamber, Mary couldn't be here today, but I want to thank her as well for her support. And of course, Jocelyn and everybody here at Canby and Can Do for hosting this presentation. And thank you all for coming. We have about 12 or so folks in the room joining us live, and I want to thank everybody for coming. I will just start by, again, introducing myself, Krista Schneider. I am the technical advisor for PennTap. PennTap is an office that falls under the Office of the Senior Vice President for Research at Penn State University. We are part of the sub-office of industry partnerships. And our role in that is to drive engagement with businesses and industry throughout the Commonwealth. And that includes sponsored research as well as providing direct technical assistance. So how do we do that? I don't know. Can I forward my slide here? Oops.
Yes, you can.
How do we do that? Well, we do that in two ways. One is by facilitating engagement with faculty, with students, staff, as well as many of the institutes. There are many institutes at Penn State. Penn State is such a vast, huge institution. It's hard to know really what resources are available to you. And so that's my job, is to try to make that more understandable and connect you with those resources if they can help you. Innovation it's very broad, of course. It involves product, process development, technology improvements, as well as, our job is also to try to connect folks to the Invent Penn State network for entrepreneurship assistance. We also provide direct assistance to businesses and industry when they have a need or an interest in becoming more sustainable. And that translates directly to reducing energy consumption, reducing energy use, conservation measures, also pollution prevention, and anything that basically helps people save energy, and by doing so, of course, save costs and becoming more efficient. So let's see if I could forward it. So PennTap has 6 regions. I am the director, the technical advisor for Northeast PA. That's number 3. You can see us there up on the top right. And I have 5 colleagues that basically are my counterpart throughout the state. And why do we do this? We are, oops, I don't want to give you the answer just yet. We do this to drive economic development, not only in Pennsylvania, of course, but directly within our regions. And so if you go back to that trivia question that was at the very beginning, which was how many businesses, this is just a bit of trivia so you have something to think about it at night when you go home. How many businesses engage with Penn State on special projects in the last 5 years? and people don't know perhaps all the work that is done engaging with communities and businesses throughout the Commonwealth, but there were more than 741 businesses, and that involved more than 1,600 projects. And you can see this map here on the screen is a heat map by zip code. And you could see that the darker the color, the more engagement, the more projects, the more business engagement there has been with Penn State. And my job as technical advisor for the Northeast region basically is to darken those zip codes. So, they're white or they're pink. We want to see more red in Northeast PA because that translates to economic development. So how do we do that? Let's see here. Well, if we focus on Northeast Pennsylvania, you can see that we want to do that by focusing on the biggest industries. And in Northeast PA, it's basically the industry clusters are plastics manufacturing, food manufacturing, and metals. And then if you hone in specifically to the Hazleton area, then you're getting into other materials such as, textile manufacturing, construction material manufacturing, as well as paper and paper packaging manufacturing. So why did I ask the speakers that we have today to join us on this webinar? Basically because they are experts in these fields. They are experts in not only the science maybe behind this work, but also in knowing who and how Penn State can help these particular industries. So I'm just going to go back up real quick here. Bill, could you go back one maybe? Yeah. We have, like I said, 5 speakers today, and I'll introduce them as we go. But Annie Hughes will speak to you about, especially for small businesses that maybe you don't have your own research and development, staff or budget. You want to know how to engage with Penn State. Invent Penn State is an easy starting point, and they can help you with understanding all of what's available. Dan Azar is going to speak to you about food science innovation. Dave Fesko, of course, Materials Institute. So all sorts of materials innovation. And then Jason Williams, I think he will be joining us as well, hopefully towards the end here, plastics innovation at the Plastics Institute at Behrend. And then Ken Okrepke, who's also here live, he will speak to you about Ben Franklin Technology Partners and how they can help you as well, especially with funding that is available. So I will start by quickly introducing our very first speaker. And I don't know if I could control the screen. There we go. I will start by introducing Annie. Annie Hughes is the statewide coordinator for the Invent Penn State Launchbox Network. She's also the director of the Harrisburg Launchbox and director of education programs at Ben Franklin Technology for Central and Northern Pennsylvania. Prior to joining Penn State, I thought it was interesting to share that Annie had worked for the Hershey Company, and I love this title. She was the manager of disruptive innovation, and that's the title I aspire to have. Disruptive innovation. Annie, her work with Ben Franklin in her role there, she creates education programs to support the growth of technology and manufacturing startups throughout the Commonwealth. So take it away, Annie.
Okay, thanks so much, Krista. It's great to be here. What they don't include in disruptive innovation is the failure rate, which is extremely for innovation projects, but you have to be prepared for that, a broken heart, so be able to deal with that. But it's great to be here and representing Invent Penn State today. As was mentioned, Invent Penn State, we really focus on early stage entrepreneurs across the Commonwealth. I'll talk a little bit about what Invent Penn State is for folks who aren't familiar. But one area that we're looking to develop is design thinking training, and that's for really any stage company. And so I'll get into that and what the value may be for your business. So let me just advance the slide here. I think. Oh, okay. It's going. Sorry, guys. It's there's a little bit of a delay. Let me see if I can get back. It's like I've never done this before. My first time on Zoom. No, I'm kidding. All right, well, tell you what, well, I'll just start with where I'm at right now. Okay, so about Invent Penn State. So in just 5 years, Invent Penn State's launched 21 innovation spaces, which on a different slide, you can see where they are around the Commonwealth. And each is designed to support local business, startups, and industry And bless you, whoever's doing that for me. Thank you. And each of these spaces has received some seed funding from Penn State to get started. One thing that we're really proud of, and I'm not going to try to advance my slide again. Yes, very poor technology person apparently that I am. But one thing we're very proud of is that currently 96% of all Pennsylvanians live within 30 miles of a Penn State innovation space. And about 75% of them live within 15 miles of an innovation space. So there's really great access there. Okay, so similar to like the ag extension model, these 21 innovation spaces provide a variety of different services, services that include, co-working spaces, maker spaces, fabrication spaces, product development support, accelerator programs. That's kind of, how we kind of hang our hat on teaching lean startup. Accelerator programs. We provide legal services pro bono through Penn State law, pitch competitions, business plan competitions galore. You can't throw a rock in the state of Pennsylvania and not hit a pitch competition. And then outreach to different groups, underrepresented entrepreneurs, youth, certain industries. And every innovation hub's a little bit different in their focus because every innovation hub's in a different community with a different economy. So we let those innovation spaces kind of fine tune and tailor their programs to serve the industries in their areas. And most of these services are provided at no cost. And most of them too are completely open to the public. You do not have to be associated with Penn State to take advantage of these services. I want to kind of say that again. You do not have to be associated with Penn State. You don't have to be an alum or student or whatever to take advantage of these services. Okay, so moving on. We have a holistic approach. Invent Penn State starts with building on our statewide footprint to programs and services specific to citizens and businesses across the Commonwealth. And so based on the needs of the community, our innovation space in the different communities really help de-risk and accelerate new startups and support industry and existing businesses. And of course, we're leveraging, our world-class research facility, our faculty rather, and facilities and expertise to, support the growth of the economies in across the Commonwealth. Okay, so that's a little bit about Invent Penn State. And just want to show off a little bit of our results here. So just in 5 years, we're seeing that we've had a big impact already on Pennsylvania and on the network across Pennsylvania. Across the network of Launchbox and innovation spaces, there were close to 5,000 entrepreneurs who've been assisted and 464 startup teams that have been graduated through our accelerator programs and over 300 jobs that have been created. And we're looking forward to growing that number year over year. All right, so now what you really want to know is what can this do for you? So if you have a business idea, you should definitely come talk to us. And if you're looking for which innovation hub or which Launchbox is right, a good fit for you, just reach out to me, and my contact information is at the end of this presentation. But you have a great Hazleton Launchbox. So William is also in the room, and he can help you definitely with develop business ideas if you're an early stage or early stage business, or if you're even pre-venture, we can help you with that. But we also are developing design thinking capabilities. So a number of our Launchbox and IPS staff are trained to teach, instruct design thinking process. And so to kind of kick off our discussion of why this is valuable to you and your business, I want you to look at a couple pictures. And looking at this picture in front of you, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this system that you see? So you may have a hypothesis. I'm going to go to the next picture. As you look at this system, what's wrong with this picture? So you might be noticing more things than I am, but the main takeaway I have is that whoever designed this did not have the user experience in mind. They did not go through the process themselves. They did not kind of empathize with the user of how this might be used. They did not understand how it needs to be used. And so they designed systems that are problematic or this don't make sense. And so really the value of design thinking, if I can get to that slide, is that it's an innovation and problem-solving process to identify solutions to human needs that are desirable, feasible, and sustainable. And of course, desirable means that they're usable and effective for whomever is using them. So desirable means that it fulfills the need of that user or stakeholder or stakeholders. Feasible means that it can be created, it can be delivered, and it can be effective. And viable means that it's sustainable, that it can be sustainably offered. And a lot of times that has to do with the business model around it. And so the design thinking process can be useful to businesses like yours for a number of reasons. But first, I want to share with you the high level process. We use the IDEO model, and I've been trained with IDEO myself. Thank you for the 1 minute warning. And this is a 5-stage process, and you can see that this is a user-centered design process. So whether you are building a new product or identifying a new product for which you want to, start R&D, or whether you are solving a problem within your business, maybe one that deals with your employees or external stakeholders, this is a great process because it's really designed for humans, and it starts you with understanding the user and the stakeholders and empathizing with them and doing that front-end user research so that you can properly define the problem. For all my engineers in the room, defining the proper problem statement is essential to building solutions that are effective. And then, of course, the process is an iterative one. So, a prototype is built right away and it's tested on users. And then from there, the design can be iterated. And so why might you use this for your business, and how can we help you with it? Well, once again, if you are, looking at building a business or expanding your product portfolio, a user-centered process is essential for building solutions that people want, that customers want. But also, if you're having problems inside your business, or let's say there's a behavior change that's needed, there's collaborative problem solving that's needed. This works with groups of humans. It works brilliantly with behavior modification and behavior changes. And so what we can do for you is first acquaint you with the process. The best way to learn design thinking is to do it. And so a number of our staff offer design sprints as a way to acquaint, leadership or your organization with the process. And so that, that's definitely available. And from there, we can kind of customize and support businesses with implementing this, on a case-by-case basis for, however they need to implement the process. Because creating a culture of innovation requires discipline, and it requires repetition of this process and kind of incorporating it into the larger process of the organization and the way you look at problems. So if you are at all interested in learning more, running out of time, you can contact me. My information, I think, is in the last slide, if I can get to it. And contact me if you want to learn more, and we'll be happy to hear how we can help. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Annie. I appreciate that. Yeah, and Bill Andehazy, as Annie mentioned, is also here for the Hazleton area launch box. Fermin Diaz as well, just joined our group here. So anybody who wants to connect in any way with the launch boxes or Invent Penn State could do so in multiple ways. Our next speaker is Dr. Dan Azar. Dr. Azar is currently the Alan R. Warheim Faculty Chair in Food and Agribusiness at the College of Ag Sciences at Penn State. He also serves as the Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation for the college. And in that role, he does a lot of things, but he also teaches classes in business strategy, corporate sustainability, and food innovation. And I asked him specifically if he would join us today because there are so many food manufacturers in the Hazleton area. He also has worked and retired back in 2012, it seems, from the Hershey Company. And at that time of his retirement, he was the Senior Vice President for Global Research and Development. So very familiar with the food industry. So go ahead, Dan. It's your turn.
Okay, thank you, Krista. And I'm happy to be here today to talk with you about the Penn State Food Science Department and what it has to offer. I think, the overarching goal of the department is to provide a safe, healthy, and abundant food supply. That's fairly obvious. And to do that, we're very fortunate to have a state-of-the-art building. It has a wet and dry pilot plant, classrooms, laboratories, and a very top-notch sensory and consumer insight facility. Those of you that have been on campus know that the Berkeley Creamery is part of the food science building. And the creamery provides academic opportunities as well as the retail store. And then the students in the department really drive the department. We have undergraduate and graduate students that are entering the food industry and are going to be leaders in the food industry in the future. Next slide, please. Doesn't look like I have control. Thank you. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about the signature research areas that are part of the food science department. You can see here we have microbial food safety, sensory and consumer science, food-based solutions for enhanced health, and the material nature of food. So if we think about microbial food safety, here we have teams doing research on food safety, public health. The sensory and consumer science area is looking to talk about characteristics of food that are appealing to consumers. And we, again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a state-of-the-art sensory and consumer insight facility that can be commissioned to the food industry to do work to develop new products or improve current products. Food-based solutions for enhanced health. In this case, you're looking at individual ingredients in food that contribute to health and also advance health. So examples here might be the bioactives called polyphenols in chocolate or purple blue potatoes that provide health benefits. So this area is looking at what specific ingredients are responsible for these benefits and how do we enhance them in food. And then finally, the material nature of food. This group studies how ingredients interact and how they function in a food formulation. And examples here might be, a lot of you may be interested in plant-based foods, which is very much a trend in today's food industry. So how ingredients from plants, for example, chickpeas would be a good example, how these ingredients function versus more traditional ingredients that then can be used in dairy alternative products or in meat alternative products. So next slide. So one of the things that's offered to the industry is the short courses that are available at Penn State. Penn State offers over 30 short courses and workshops. And this is a list of some of them. Like I say, there's 30. I thought I'd just show a few to highlight this. The food science certificate program, though, may be of interest. This provides professionals with an opportunity to take multiple short courses and to build those up into a certificate. So each course may be worth, say, 2 educational credits. And to get a certificate, you would gain 12 of these credits, and then you'd be certified in either food processing, for example, or food safety. Examples here include the basic, dairy quality and safety short course. Currently, there's a short course with Ingredion where we're looking at plant-based ingredients and yogurt alternatives. The Penn State ice cream short course is famous. And then there's also, for example, the principles of sensory evaluation. So these short courses are listed on the food science website. And you'll see that at the end of the presentation, we'll have the website posted. Next slide. So my practical example is shown on this slide. I offer a course in the fall where we're looking at food innovation and product design. As was mentioned earlier by Annie, we try to give the students an example of not only product development, but also the design thinking that goes behind developing a new product. The way the course works is we asked sponsors from industry to provide a brief to the students that would describe what their new product interest would be. The students then take that brief and they work through and develop actual prototypes. They develop a PowerPoint presentation, And they do focus groups and surveys to really understand the product, provide feedback to the sponsor, and then to actually have a product they can demonstrate to the sponsor and actually taste it, talk about it, look at the business possibilities, whether or not it would be successful. At the end, you'll get a report that would highlight the concept itself, the formulation of the product. You'd get a completed survey, and you'd have focus group results, as well as the student perspective on this product. And finally, as a business, we also recognize that there is some confidentiality involved with this. So we're able to have students sign a non-disclosure agreement and an IP rights transfer agreement back to the sponsor. So we've been doing this course now for 3 years. This will be our 4th year. It is a mandatory course for students in the food science program. It serves as a capstone class. These students are well-trained and very excited about working with industry sponsors on this kind of project. So if you have a interest in working with students to develop a new product, please let me know, and we can get you signed up for the fall semester, where we will be looking at probably 6, 7, 8 different projects. Next slide. So this is my contact information. I also included the food science website here, my email and phone number. Please feel free to contact me. And I apologize, I'm going to have to leave early for another meeting. But again, if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer those, follow up. And I was glad to be here today to talk about the food science department. Thank you.
Dan, thank you so much for your presentation and your time. I also want to take this opportunity to let everybody know that we have here in Hazleton a commercially licensed kitchen that is a food incubator, and that is operated in conjunction with our host here, the Canby Innovation Center, as well as Penn State Hazleton. And so that facility is available for food-based startups. And we would love for anybody who is interested in starting a food business that would want to engage with us or with Penn State. We can help. We can help do that. So thank you very much. And I will, I guess, introduce the next speaker, which Dave. Dave, I hope you are still there. Yes. Okay. Dave Fesko is a materials scientist by training. He currently serves as the Director of Industry Research Collaborations at the Penn State Materials Research Institute, which is a fantastic facility. We had the opportunity to tour, thank you very much, a few months ago. He spent 20 years in the composites industry before coming back to Penn State, where he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees, and then also his PhD he received from the University of Delaware. In his role at the MRI, he leads the industry outreach efforts, and he does many things in this role, but the primary among them, I guess, is connecting more than 350 materials-oriented faculty at Penn State with industries around the world. So thank you very much, Dave, for your time, and the presentation is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Can I get a thumbs up? You can hear me okay? Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Again, my name is Dave Fesko, and I am part of Penn State's Materials Research Institute, where I serve as the industry outreach person for the Institute. I hope that I can understand industrial needs. I've spent about 20 years in industry myself, so hopefully won't be too far off base if and when you have need to give us a shout. I wanted to start by just mentioning the fact that Penn State is a leader in the materials area. NSF ranks college universities based on their expenditures in different areas. It's maybe sounds a little bit of a silly way to rank somebody, but if you think about it, the contracts and research awards go to places where they do well. Penn State ranks #1 in materials science and #2 in materials engineering areas across the US. So we are right up there at the top of the board when it comes to materials. We have a lot of different areas that we work on in materials. You can see some of these areas listed in these. This is a publication that we put out a couple times a year. Focus on materials. It's an internally published magazine. I like to think of it as kind of a Newsweek magazine with some nice pictures and articles about some of the research that we get into. But you can get copies of this both electronically, and we can also send hard copies out to folks once you sign up. So if you're interested in doing that, please sign up. The way to think about an institute at Penn State, we cut across many of the academic departments in the colleges. For example, at MRI, we work with about 350 researchers from 5 colleges and about 25 academic departments. And the reason I mention that is because there is a tremendous breadth in the amount of research and the type of research that the materials research gets into. You know, Dan is on here from food science. He was at Hershey for a while. Hershey, we work with to try to figure out problems that they may be having with some of their food. We work with manufacturers that, that make metals. We have a lot of expertise in looking at metals. We look at plastics, we look at chemicals, we look at, raw materials, all kinds of things that, many of the organizations. I took a look at who's on the call, and we've got a lot of companies that work in things that require some knowledge or expertise in materials, and we have faculty that can help with that. So just know that we do have a breadth of faculty, and I'm happy to serve. I guess that's one big message I want to leave you with, is if you have a need and you'd like to talk with somebody, maybe connect with somebody about potential sponsored research, I can happily make that connection for you. So save my contact. One of the other points that I want to make is our capabilities and facilities. So Penn State about 10 years ago made a huge investment in materials research. We're in a beautiful new building. We have 4 shared user facilities in that building, going left to right here, starting off with one that's probably the most ubiquitously used across industries, a characterization facility. So underneath a garden area outside of our building, we have some very, very sensitive material equipment for looking at very high magnification images, or any surfaces on materials, the different functional groups that exist on materials, all sorts of things that really are impacted by the very basic structure of that material, whether it's a crystal structure or a composition. We have the tools to kind of look into that material. We have our staff is very, number one, large. We have about 27 people that work in our characterization facilities that run probably $50 million worth of analytical equipment. Much of that is used to look at research projects across the university, but we're very happy to apply that to industrial problems as well. I'll give you an example of that in a minute here. So that's one of our shared facilities. We also have a nanofabrication facility where with clean rooms where we can look at producing electronic devices, biomedical devices, things that you might find in a cell phone, for example. So that's another one of the facilities. And there we have about a dozen or so staff members that work in that facility, and that would help somebody that's trying to use that facility to produce something, or to investigate, possibly a chemical that might be used in this process. We look at, and we can help companies with that as well. We have a large computational resource. This is sort of walks the blurry line between the Materials Research Institute and the Institute for Computational and Data Sciences, which is another one of the large facilities at Penn State. here we're focused on materials computation as opposed to some of the other types of computation that might be done elsewhere at the university. But the materials computational resources can use the supercomputing resources on campus to really run some very in-depth analyses. And really where this is very commonly used, it's looking at your starting point, this big soup of different materials that you might need to solve your problem. And we can use computation to take us down to the top 3 or 4 best candidates. And that's where you want to spend your empirical or your research dollars, where you're actually going to go and fabricate something and see how it works. And then the last of the facilities is a material synthesis facility. It's actually funded by the National Science Foundation. We look at 2-dimensional materials and their properties. Many of the resources here are more targeted towards academic resources or academic application. But there's a possibility, if you happen to be in a field where you use multifunctional or functional 2-dimensional materials, that we could help with that as well from this facility. So I think I just advanced that slide. Let me try that again. There we go. So, so why is this of interest and how can we help you? I decided to use this example. This is a company that's up in your neck of the woods, GIlson Boards, manufactures snowboards. So hopefully we won't see too much more of this white stuff on the ground around here. But here's a picture of one of their folks riding one of their snowboards. GIlson Boards came to us 5 or 6 years ago. They manufacture these up in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. And in one of the steps of the process, there's a critical step where they have to get a certain part of the board. It's the edges of the board that are made out of a high molecular weight polyethylene to bond to the wood parts inside the core. And there's a step where it's kind of very an artsy feel to making that bond really well. And they wanted to add a little bit of, add a little science to this to really help the manufacturing process and cut down on defects. So we brought this material in-house. Our scientists took a look at the surfaces of this material, identified the functional groups, the things that really cause the plastic in the one part to stick to the wood on the other side, and identified ways to determine how much of that functional material was at the surface. And we helped them identify a way to take away some of the artsy part of the manufacturing and put it into an area where every time when they do this process, they get the same result time and time again. So it really added a lot of durability to the boards going beyond the manufacturing. And these things go through some very rigorous, if you've watched the Olympics when they were on here a number of months ago, when they're going down these half pipes and the board is bending nearly in half. It was really critical for that to be a good bond. So we're able to help companies, and if you come to us and have an interest in using our facilities, we can help with that as well. We have some really easy ways, contracting vehicles to get us under contract with companies to make that work happen. So anyway, that's kind of a rough outline of what the Materials Research Institute is. I'm happy to answer questions. If you can put them in the chat, we'll get to them after the speakers are through, I think. But that's where I'm going to stop.
All right, thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate that. Appreciate your time participating in this presentation. Our next speaker is Jason Williams. Jason has been designing, I'm sorry, let me back up. Jason Williams is the assistant teaching professor of engineering at Penn State Erie, the Barron College at Penn State Erie. And Jason has been designing plastics products for over 25 years. He's a graduate of the Penn State Plastics Engineering Technology program. And he worked for the university before going out on his own and starting his own product development firm. He's back at the university now and since 2008, and he teaches courses in product design and development, plastic part design, plastic process simulation, and also conducts active research in a whole bunch of areas, including material properties and additive manufacturing. So the floor is yours, Jason. And what do you have to tell us about the Plastics Institute?
A couple things. So thanks for having me, and thanks for the nice introduction. There's the, oh, I following Annie's footsteps, clicking too fast. I feel like one of my students, just clicky, clicky. I always tell them to get to slow down. Anyway, I teach within the Plastics Engineering Technology program, as Krista mentioned, and our program has been, so we're, gosh, over 30 years old now, and teaching plastics. The picture here is actually the third plastics lab. I've got another image coming up here in a moment, but the program is really designed, it was founded as a response to regional industry. They needed engineers that could get into their company and make an immediate impact. And that's the way the program's been built and taught since we started. So our graduates, our graduates work in different areas, from process engineering to, I haven't touched a machine in years. So my career has been solely based around product development and plastic part design. So I've done that for ages. So what we did find, however, is that from a material standpoint, we had companies that were starting to look at some material manufacturers. So they actually make the material, would come to us, and they had questions about how the manufacturing process, the conversion process really, so taking it from the pellet form to a product form, how that impacted its properties in more detail. That led us to start a second degree program in polymer engineering and science, which is a bit more of an applied approach to the use of polymers. So we chose the best possible time to start a new program, which that right in the middle of a global pandemic, which is fantastic. But we have students working our way through that program. The two programs are very closely tied. The students work across the two programs pretty seamlessly. I mention these mainly because the facilities that the students get to learn in are also the facilities we get to use from a research perspective. We also try to use our undergraduate students whenever possible in our research work. So as can be seen in the slide here, we've got companies, or I should say we've got what is effectively a factory with an attached polymer science lab. So in the lower section, I work with Dave's group and the MRI. We work with them extensively. I'll be showing that in the next slide. But we can do quite a bit of characterization work on our own here. But what we're focused on is really what we make in the lab, sort of tearing that apart and seeing how the manufacturing process really impacts material properties. So within that regard, I think the best way for me to kind of describe how we can interact with different companies or industries is to show a couple examples. So for example, SKF is probably one of our biggest collaborators. And this collaboration, gosh, it's run through multiple faculty members. It's supported multiple graduate students at this point. This engagement is both through SKF's facilities here in the US as well as their global research facility. I've had several of my students do summer internships at their research facility outside Amsterdam, which for a student is quite an experience. But anyway, this work, we work a lot with the material science department at University Park, as well as the Material Research Institute, on fundamental work, and then that translates at our campus into production level or production scale testing. So we can build microstructure at one campus, then we can test to see how that behaves at another campus. And we also try to work as seamlessly as possible. I think one of the things we try to talk about at our campus is the idea of an open lab. And what that means to us is that we don't want to be treated like a black box. We don't want you to just huck a project to us and say, we'll see in a while. We want your researchers, your engineers to be a part of the research. You know your products, you know your needs better than I can. So, but however, we know, I should say, the materials, how to work with them, how to design with them, and how to move them into application. So we like to partner with companies. We don't like to be just contracted to do some work. Another sort of example of how we interact is we are also part of this Advanced Resource Efficiency Center, ERIC, which is actually based initially out of the University of Sheffield. Now there's two parts of this. There's this, we're a member of the ERIC USA. Our focus, so this works into creating sustainable supply chains, as well as helping with companies develop supply chains and sustainable solutions through life cycle analysis. Our focus at our campus is on polymers and plastics. ERIC, also we have the part of the ERIC USA is at the University Park campus, where they've got the energy-based system. And then this all again ties back to this global network that we're a part of. So this is another component. I'm not the lead faculty on this piece. If this is an interest area of you, contact me and I can get you in touch with the faculty that heads up the polymer side of the ERIC Center. And then sort of something that's not quite as in depth, if you will, but it was something that shows how quickly, I like this example, was one that it helped keep me distracted a little bit when COVID had us all at home. However, it showed the interaction we like to have with industry. So this was actually a face shield that we took from concept through production and distribution in about 3 weeks. And it was predominantly led by us and a colleague of mine at Case Western Reserve. We did the design in just a couple days, and a local tool maker or tool designer designed the tool in a day. We had the molds built locally at a local local company. They had molds built for us in a week. And the what we were starting to do is we found that the constraint in this was really distribution and supply chain. And so this is where we were able to set up, and we found a local company that would manage the billing, supply chain, and fulfillment for this whole project. They were shut down for due to COVID, and they were looking for ways to help. And so this was actually these 5 regional manufacturers all pulled together through our collaborations to make these face shields. So, and of course, when you get done, you look back, and here I was talking with another manufacturer about 30 miles from me, and they focus mainly on thermoforming, and they had a much cooler design, but what can I say? We can't always win them all. But I think this is a good example of our interaction and the level of trust we have with the companies that we work with. So anyway, that is what we like to do. So I would
Wonderful.
say, please get a hold of me if you need something.
Yeah, I don't know where your contact information went, but I have that information, and my contact information. I'm sorry, my slide at the end has my phone number, and I could get you in touch with Jason if you would like to.
Help! I can just type my email in the chat.
In the chat. That would be great. Thank you. And okay, our last speaker, last but certainly not least, is, where are you?
I'm here.
Ken O'Krupke. Where did I put your sheet? Here we are. All right. Everybody hear me still? Yeah. Okay. Ken O'Krupke is our last speaker. He is the regional manager for Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Northeast PA. He oversees investments in a portfolio of more than 40 companies in Northeast PA. And in the last 3 years, these clients have leveraged his funding to raise more than $60 million. So that's pretty good for Northeast PA. For the last 22 years, Ken has supported early stage technology companies and connected manufacturing firms to colleges and universities, including Penn State, and we are thankful for that. Specifically, he's been helping manufacturers find better ways to deliver their products and innovate their production lines. And he's here to talk to you today about that, as well as funding opportunities that Ben Franklin has available for businesses that want to partner with Penn State.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Krista. And I want to thank, Krista Schneider and PennTap for bringing us here today. I want to thank our panelists from Penn State for talking about the resources that are available to you at Penn State. And most importantly, thank the industry folks here in the room, because at the end, all that you've heard so far, the only thing that's really relevant is we're here to serve you. And so I hope that you take away, two thoughts from this presentation today. Number one, Penn State University, although they educate students, they also have world-class scientists and industry experts and facilities that are available to each and every one of your organizations. That's number one. And then number two, Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Northeastern Pennsylvania could actually, if you decide to partner with any of the folks that you've heard today, along with PennTap, we'll fund 50% of that project to help offset the cost. Because what we're trying to do is help. Well, let me tell you about who Ben Franklin is first, and then I'll come into that specifically. So Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Northeastern Pennsylvania is part of a statewide organization that was founded in 1982. And we were founded to connect college and university resources to facilitate innovation that created startup companies. We happen to be the first inventor in Nexi that's here in the greater Hazleton area. And then also to connect manufacturing facilities to university resources to help you stay as competitive as possible in your marketplace. So whether you are launching a new product and you need to validate the efficacy of that product, or you have applications that will strengthen your position within your marketplace and retain jobs within your facility or add jobs, all of those projects will qualify for Ben Franklin Technology Partners. There are 4 Ben Franklins. There's one in Philadelphia. There's one in Pittsburgh, one that runs from Erie to Harrisburg called Central Northern. And then my organization covers the 21 counties in the northeastern corner. I'm specifically responsible for all the deals that take place between Pike County to Lower Luzerne County and then north to the New York State border. What do we do with manufacturing companies? We can support process improvements, product development projects, applications to technologies, and they will all be facilitated with a relationship with a college or university. So all of the folks you heard today from Penn State, whether it's at University Park or out at Penn State Barron, our organization can bring resources to help you offset the cost of that specific project that has a direct impact on your organization. And these are just a series of examples of projects that may apply to the activities within your specific facility. I'm not going to break down each and every one of them. I'll give you an opportunity to look at this here momentarily. But suffice it to say, you left your plant today, someone and a team of people, they're making product right now, and they're working very, very hard within each and every one of your facilities. You know where the challenges are within your organizations. And sometimes what happens is you just don't have either the time or the resources to address that specific idea or task today. So it's not that you don't know how to do it. It's not that you absolutely need an additional set of expertise, but sometimes you just need another set of hands and a cost to help offset the implementation of that specific project. So I won't, sit here and tell you I'm an expert in each and every one of your organizations, but you are, and you know where the challenges are. And what our job is connect you to the resources so that you can grow and continue to remain strong here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. Here are just a couple of examples where we worked with the team out at University Park. Both of these projects happen to be affiliated with the material science side. In one case, the company wanted to identify the connectivity of materials at the molecular level as they move through their powder coating line and their applications to address what was a failure that took place over a period of years. And the other company wanted to substitute a material within their product to make sure that when they made that substitution, the new product would meet all of their industry standards. And we worked directly with the team, 2 different teams at Penn State, to bring what were the gentleman, when we first brought him into that organization's plant for the one company, he said, I happen to be the world expert on this coating technology. And we're like, the world? And he's like, yes, the world. And oh, by the way, as much as I love to work with students, I'm paid by Penn State to come out and also work with companies. And so to have this relationship where Penn State connects to a corporation to keep a company strong here in northeastern Pennsylvania, that's exactly what we wanted to do. And it was a pleasure to bring those folks together to make sure that that company continued to be an industry leader in what they do. And then finally, our grants are available up to $25,000 per project. If a project is more than that, we can split it so that we can provide up to $50,000 in capital to help support the specific project. We will, that investment will be matched dollar for dollar in a cash match. So we'll provide 50% of the cash. Your organization will provide the additional dollars, and I can provide funding up to 3 to 5 years to match a project, or if you have a series of projects that you might be interested in us helping you execute on. The application process is pretty simple. I mentioned before, you know what's happening within your facility and what you're trying to accomplish. So you identify the scope of work, the timeline that you need that activity to take place on, and then we work with the team at Penn State to put together a budget. And this is not, from my perspective, not a semester by semester project. This is a timeline that falls in line with what happens within your organization. And we identify the right individual who can work along that timeline. And then the process ends with you getting the delivery of whatever was identified in that scope of work. So as much as I appreciate the academic experience and the fact that Penn State teaches students, in this case, we're here alongside Penn Tap to make sure that your corporation gets the experience you need to deliver on whatever that scope of work is in the timeline that meets the needs of your organization. The deadlines are on a rolling basis for Ben Franklin. So you can see July, September, December, February, and April is when we will submit applications. They get reviewed, they get presented to our board of directors, and then ultimately our board approves these projects. These are projects that are very easy for me because the scope of work is very clear, the outcome is very clear, and we're connecting you to the resource to execute on that specific activity. The other important piece to this, although you're working with an institution of higher education, all of the intellectual property that's associated with any Ben Franklin project stays specifically within your organization. And that's non-negotiable from where we sit. Even if there's some development of new proprietary technology or application, it will always stay with the organization from a corporate perspective. And that's just part of Ben Franklin's program. And then finally, here's my contact information. I'd be happy to talk with any of you at any time to get a better understanding of what your needs are and find a way that Ben Franklin Technology Partners can work with Penn Tap and the team at Penn State University to make sure you stay as strong as you possibly can here in northeastern Pennsylvania. We want your organizations to continue to grow and thrive here in our community, and it would be an honor and a privilege to work with anyone here in this room. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ken. That was great information. And so that's my contact information up there on the screen. For those of you on Zoom, my cards are available here on the table for you in-person folks. And I guess I will just open it up to any questions. If we could go also to the next slide, I also just want to recognize Maribel Melendez, who's here today, Sweets Melendez. She is I don't know if you call her, she's not a tenant anymore of our kitchen incubator, but she had an initial start there. And I wanted to recognize her, as well as Barranco's Pizza, who's, if you tasted it for lunch today, they are a current kitchen incubator and tenant. And I wanted to thank them for providing lunch today. So with that, I will open it up for questions and see if there's any in the chat box. I see one in the chat box. How do we access the materials characterization lab? That is the MRI, and I don't know what happened to Dave's contact information, but I will type that in the chat box so everybody has that. Do we have any questions here from the room or on Zoom? I don't see anybody raising their hands. Yes.
What was wrong with the doors?
Annie. Annie. Oh, you know what? Annie had to jump off. I'm not sure what was wrong with the doors, but
The one that opened in, the other one, you were both coming at the same time. The doors-
yeah.
The other one, the water came down to where you stand, I think.
Yeah,
So the water
that's
came
what I
down and
saw
it came
too.
right in front of the stairwell.
No,
So
no,
if it
no,
was-
no, no.
Nope.
That was, it was a handicap access ramp with stairs, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
This
That
is the
was,
collaboration. I thought the water, you're right, look at the water is coming down.
I don't see any questions online from any of the Zoom folks. I just want to thank everybody who's here today. Again, if I didn't get to meet you personally, please stick around. I want to get to know you and what company you're from. And just thank Bill Andehazy for his Zoom control, and Elizabeth, I know you're on the back end as well. And thank you, Ken, and everybody else for coming. And I guess we're ending just about on time, and yeah, we're 1 minute to spare. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you.
You type in.